What's going on, everybody? Sensei Lewis here with another live that I wanted to get going on for you today. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to do like a simultaneous thing here on Instagram and on YouTube. So whichever is your preferred media platform, just check us out on either one. The subject that I wanted to talk about is the subject of mental domination, right? Mental domination in regards to the science of Shinobi or Shinobi Science, right? As I said to everyone that, these are some of the things that we teach here, with our school. We go beyond just the physical forms of techniques and things like that. We want to try to, when you join our school, right? We want to try to give you the full scope of the martial arts, right? We want to give you that martial arts lifestyle. So that includes, of course, the physical training to get yourself fit and in shape. It includes obviously the self-defense techniques to keep you safe, learning how to, weaponry and things like that. To the aspects of eating right, you know what I'm saying, eating healthy and living healthy, to the aspects of discipline, of course, and of course this part that I want to talk about today, which is the mental aspect. All right. So I titled the video on YouTube, which Mental Domination and Shinobi Science: How to Avoid Getting Mentally Screwed Over, right? And this topic is relevant in so many ways to what we see going on today right now, right? Not only when it comes to this coronavirus thing, and now we hear about the riots and stuff going on, but it goes beyond that, even to other social areas. You know what I'm saying? So, like for example, I'll give you an example of how a lot of y'all out there, you got yourselves mentally screwed over, right? Remember when this coronavirus thing first started, and there was this strange reason why everybody started hoarding toilet paper? Remember that, right? How many of you were part of that? Not thinking, I don't, to this day, I still don't get it. I still don't get it. You know why I don't get it? Because I observed while everybody was panicking and going wild and hoarding up on toilet paper for no reason. And here's why I'm going to show you why it was no reason for you to do that. Because I sat back and I was calm and I observed the whole thing. Did you not realize, everybody, that why did you hoard up on toilet paper? There was no reason to hoard up on toilet paper. Why not? Because you were still allowed to go to the store for essentials. See that? You were still allowed to go to the store for essentials, right? They may have said that your job or whatever had to shut down. Non-essentials could close down. But then they told you could still get food from restaurants, takeout or delivery. And you could still go to supermarkets and things like that because that was considered essential. So there was no need to hoard toilet paper because you were still allowed to go to the store if you needed to get toilet paper, just like you were able to do before the coronavirus lockdown. But how many people did I see, and I did one of my previous videos on YouTube about that, where we saw people fighting over toilet paper, right? People trying to pile up as much as they could in their cart and not wanting to share with other people, making sure nobody could get, I'm getting all the toilet paper in the whole damn store. And if somebody tries to take a toilet paper out of your cart because you took too much and you're being greedy, people start fighting over the toilet paper, right? They're fighting over the toilet paper. You know what I'm saying? So, so it's like, that's one of the ways, and I've never seen that. Like I said, I done, and many of you, we depending on where you live at, right? Like those of us who are on the East Coast, we've been through hurricanes, right? We've been through hurricanes. Those of us who live who've lived or lived in the Northeast or the Northwest, Midwest, etc., right? You may have experienced blizzards, snowstorms, nor'easters, rain for the East Coast, nor'easters, and all these different things like that. And never have I seen in all my years of living through hurricanes and snowstorms and blizzards, never have I seen toilet paper being one of the things that people focused on hoarding. In the past, which was made sense, which was getting food. Make sure you have enough food in your house when the blizzard is coming. Make sure you have enough food when the tornado is coming. Never was toilet paper one of the main factors until this incident happened. And like I said, it wasn't even necessary because you were allowed, as through the whole thing, right? You were always allowed to go to the store for essentials, so there was no need to hoard toilet paper. And how did that happen? Who put that idea out there that we gotta hoard up on toilet paper? Who put it out? You know what I mean? Like, I still don't know the origin of that. I still don't understand the origin of where that idea came from, that people needed to hoard up on toilet paper, and how people did it. And it was funny because I would go, when this thing first started, I would go to Walmart, right, just for, whatever regular everyday stuff. And I'm seeing people panicking in the store. I'm seeing people's carts filled up with more toilet paper than food, actually, right? I saw people's carts filled up with more toilet paper than they had food in the carts. And I was like, wow. So that's the way that a lot of you out there, you got yourselves mentally screwed over. Because you were just following along. You weren't thinking for yourself. You didn't think to yourself, well, hey, why do I need to do that if we could still go to the store for essentials, right? We could still go to the store for essentials, so there was no need for you to do this, right? And I've been going to the store for essentials through this whole thing since these last 3 months that this thing has been going on. And I'm in New York right now. When I was in Georgia before this thing started, I was still just going to the store regular to get whatever I needed. Yeah, you got to wear your mask or whatever, but I was going to the store to get water without having to hoard it. Going to the store to get, and of course, when you did go for those things, because everybody hoarded it, now they weren't there. But that's the point. There was no need to do that. And now I'm in New York. New York is still on lockdown, right? But same thing here. We could still go to the store for essentials. So there's no need for you to be hoarding up water and toilet paper and all these things like you're locked up in your house and you can't get out. You could still go to the store for these essential things. So this is like mob mentality. This is how societies get manipulated. This is why they call people sheep, because it's like a herd mentality. It's a simple-minded herd mentality where people just are going along. You're not thinking. You're being a sheep. You're just following the herd, and you're not thinking critically about why you're doing what you're doing. And that's how this ties into this subject, right? As a martial artist, right? As a technician in the martial arts, as a warrior, you want to be mentally sharp. You don't want to be easily led about or led astray, right? You should always be a man or woman of critical thinking. Because if not, you are the peon, right? You are the sheep. You are the one that could be easily manipulated, to be led astray, to be led to the slaughter, right? To be coerced into doing the bidding of others, to be used by others. And you don't want to be in that situation, right? We know of stories historically of how people were just led to the slaughter. No one thought to stand up, to resist. And because of that, we know the stories of Nazi Germany, and we know all those stories that have happened throughout history. The other side of that is where your enemies, your oppressor, the tyrant, the dictator, etc., breaks you down mentally to your not only physically beat down and trodden, but you're mentally beat down to the point where now you just give up. You no longer have that fierceness of resistance in your heart, right? You no longer have that because it's been mentally, not only physically, but it's been mentally beat out of. You're mentally beat down, where you don't even think to resist. You don't even think to rebel, to fight back, to have a revolution, to revolt, etc. Right? There are, there are a number of books out there that help you with this, which is what I'm tying to. And if you watch on YouTube, matter of fact, I'll help you guys here. Those of you who are watching on Instagram, you can see there are books about this. This is a good one right here, very famous classical book, The Art of War, which talks about this, right? Not only giving physical military strategy, but also mental and psychological warfare, right? How to also psychologically battle and defeat your enemy or win over others, whether it be person to person or an army of people, right? So that's one of the importance of that. There's a saying from Sun Tzu in the book, right here. Let me show you that for those who are watching. All right. Every battle is won before it is fought. Now, what does that mean? That every battle is won before it is fought? Well, depending on the context of the situation, but even then, it still matters because it starts up here in your mind, right? It starts in the mind. If you are already mentally defeated, fearful, intimidated, then you will more than likely, unless your mental state can change in the midst of the battle, then you will more than likely be defeated because you already are defeated up here. Right? You already are defeated up here. Examples of how it could turn in your favor. For example, one of the greatest boxers, Muhammad Ali. Right? You study some of his fights where he went up against formidable opponents. Perhaps like his boxing match with George Foreman. George Foreman was a very powerful boxer, very heavy, hard hitter. And Muhammad Ali was aware of this. And if you go back and if you can watch the highlights or watch that fight, you will see that, Foreman he's pounding Ali. But you can see through the midst of the fight, there's moments where you can see that Ali is in his head. He's thinking. He's mentally thinking about how he can succeed in this, what seems to be, it's going to be a hard battle. And of course, if you know the history of that fight, Ali came out on top. He came out on top in that fight. So it wasn't just the physical skill that Ali had, but how he had to mentally deal with that. Like that saying that Mike Tyson has, right? The opposite, which is, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face, right? Then your whole plan goes out the window. But how can you overcome that? You can overcome that with your mental capacity. So it's not only the physical skill, but it's also the mental capacity. That's going to either make you come out victorious in that situation, or that punch in the face is going to make you completely lose it. So this is why I like to train my students with not only the physical, but also the mental aspects of their martial arts. So that saying, every battle is won before it is fought, is because it deals with the mental as well, right? And how you prepare for it, of course, ahead of time. But that thing, that the mental is so powerful that a lot of people overlook it. Some people always think it's the brute force. It's the brute force all the time. No, that's one component of it, but it's the skill, but it's also the mental behind it. I've seen it. I've seen, black belts get into fights and do bad. Why? The skill was there. They're black belts, so they obviously they put in the training, they put in the skill. But why did they get defeated? Because you could see that mentally they had been defeated. So their skill didn't matter anymore because of the fact that they were mentally defeated. They were mentally weak, and you could see it. It would, what was in their mind began to show in their physical actions. It began to, from the mind, began to translate to the physical. So he's like, wow, this guy's a black belt. But you could see that mentally they lost. Mentally they were intimidated. And so their black belt skill didn't matter. And sure enough, they got beat by a person who was not on a black belt level, who maybe was just a regular guy who was just throwing punches. But because he could intimidate that person mentally, they lost and they got defeated. What's going on for what's this? Shahida? Shahid, my bad. Shahid, Aki, and Emmanuel Young. Welcome, brothers. Welcome. Appreciate you stopping in while I talk about this subject. So that's very important, man. The mind. A lot of people underestimate the mind, man. The mind is deep, man. Getting into the sciences of the mind is very deep, and how it affects us. You see, how it affects us physically. How what's in your mind translates into the physical reality of what you are doing. So it can either help you succeed, or help you in your failure. And that's why, as martial artists, it's important that, no matter what martial arts skill discipline you get into, they all have their benefits. They're all good. But really, what it comes down to is that person. See? So if you see somebody from whatever particular style get beat up or defeated, no, don't down the style. Don't say, well, that means that style is no good. No. It's not the style. It's the person. It's the person themselves that failed, not the style. It's the person themselves. That mental aspect is very important. And like I said, Sun Tzu talks about that in The Art of War. Some of the books that I'm showing you on the screen, they talk about it. Right? There are others. Here, let me show you another one here. Here's another one. I have this book actually, the Mind Manipulation, Ancient and Modern Ninja Techniques About Mind Manipulation by Dr. Ha Ha Lung and Christopher Prowant. Right, so get your hands on it. Very good book. Recommended reading. And in the book, he talks about a lot of different things about mind manipulation. Not only you using it, in your mental martial art capacity, but also how to know the tactics that are used against you and societies and people and individuals and things. You know what I'm saying? So that you can be aware of it to avoid getting yourself screwed over. Some people have, like they call like street smarts, right? Some people have it and some don't. So a street smart person could be, in the neighborhood, in the hood, and he knows the guys around and he knows the games that they play, so how to avoid getting taken. And then somebody from some upscale neighborhood who doesn't have any street savviness about themselves can get easily taken because they don't have that mental capacity to deal with it. Some examples of that are how many of you seen these new shows that they have? For example, that's that show, what's it called? I've never watched the whole thing, but I've just seen little bits and pieces of it through social media. 90 Day Fiance, right? And you can see that some of the people on the show are clearly being played. But why can't they recognize that they're being played? Like the one dude, the overweight dude, a little short, overweight, fat dude, who was, trying to get with the chick from the Philippines, right? A little slim, nice looking girl from the Philippines. But it's obvious that he's being played. How come he doesn't recognize that he's being played, though? Why doesn't he have the savviness and the mental strength and the mental wherewithal to recognize this girl? It's clear. I'm watching. I'm like, it's clear that she's playing him. He ain't even been with the girl. He wasn't even with her at all, physically in any kind of way. And he's already sending money. He's already sending, gifts and things that she's asking for. I'm like, bro, who does that? A fool does that. A person who doesn't have any mental wherewithal, right? Will get played like that. And he doesn't even have the, of course now they say he might recognize it now, but why didn't he recognize it in the moment? Why didn't he see? Why didn't he say to himself, stop and say, why am I sending? I don't know this girl yet. I haven't even been with her yet. I haven't even seen her yet. I haven't even kissed her, anything. Why am I sending her gifts and money and all these things? For what? For what? I don't know her. Right? A smart person would recognize, any smart man would like, oh, wait a minute, why should I send you anything? We haven't even like gone out on a date or anything, and then you want me to send you money? You want me to send you gifts and items for what? Right? For what? You know what I'm saying? Then you got the other side of it where you got the women. Same thing. You got the overweight woman, maybe doesn't appear very attractive. Got the guy from another country, and it's the same kind of story. Right? Same kind of story. But why can't the woman see the same thing? Like, why does he want you? Good looking, slim dude. I mean, you can be naive and be like, okay, well, he must, but come on, man, you're not even putting your best foot forward. You know that you don't even feel you're even at your best right there. Overweight, right? Overweight. Much older than the person. It's like, think, why does he want you for? What reason does this guy want you for? And the same with the dude. Why does she want you, bro? And then they send, like I said, then they playing them. They playing the women too. Send money for me, and they'll like, come on, you don't see that you're being played? You can't recognize it? But that's what happens when you don't use your mind to the best of its ability, right? The mind is very powerful, people. And if you don't use it, you will get taken advantage of, right? You will get taken advantage of if you don't use your mind. So, like I said, that's why I like to stress that in my training to my students. That, the importance of not only the physical skill that I'm imparting to you, but also the discipline. The physical discipline and the mind, the mental discipline. It's very important. It's very important. That's the real key. In many cases, between losing and victory. I even think back to experiences that I've had in my life growing up, where it was the mental desire to win or come out of a situation, and I came out that situation. Whether it was when I used to run track and field, whether it was me running track, and my mind is focused that I'm going to get this, and in the end, yeah, you wind up getting it. Right? I'll give you another story. This is a funny story, but just to give an example of this is a funny story. Right? When we were kids, this is back when when remember the WWE, right? Well, now they call it, of course, back then they used to call it the WWF. And at the time when I was a kid, Hulk Hogan, I don't know if he's still around, but Hulk Hogan was the champion, right? Hulk Hogan was the champion of the WWF at that time, right? So, me and my friends, we all enjoyed, watching it and all that stuff like that. So we decided that we were, all the friends on the block, right, on my street, where we decided that we were going to make, a WWF federation, and everybody picked the character who was their favorite character, who they wanted to be, right? So I picked Hulk Hogan. I was imaginary Hulk Hogan, right? So we made it. We had a championship belt. We had the championship belt. We had the tag team belt. We had like all the belts that they had in the real WWF. We had those belts like that, right? And we had to actually wrestle each other to get the titles. So everybody wrestled, and I had got the championship title, right? And then like I said, we had a little tag team championship, intercontinental championship, things like that. So later on, there was another. We got a guy, one of the guys, a new guy, moved on our block. Cool guy. He was cool. It was a cool guy, but he was big. He was like he was a little bit taller than us, bigger than hefty. A little hefty kind of husky dude. You know what I'm saying? For our age as kids. So I forgot which character he had picked. Right? I forgot which character he had picked. Welcome, Belima. Welcome. I forgot which character he picked. Right? But whatever character he picked, we used to play the part. We used to play the roles of how they used to talk in the WWF and challenging each other and talking smack and all that stuff like that, right? So one day he wanted the challenge for the championship, right? So he was talking smack to me. Again, it was all in fun and stuff like that. It was all in fun, but at the same time, maybe there was a slight bit of some seriousness. So he was talking smack to me. Said he wanted a shot at the title, and for a while I was kind of avoiding it, but he was calling me out, calling me the paper champ, and all stuff like that, right? So and like I said, he was bigger than me. He had more weight. He was hefty and everything. But finally, he just kept on talking junk. You a paper champ. I want a shot at the title. You're going to lose. You're the paper champ. You're not the real champ. So after a while, I just got fed up and I was like, all right, we got to do this. He's talking too much junk. I'm going to have to put it on the line. Now, of course, in my mind, there was some timidness because, again, he was a big dude. Right? He was kind of big and everything. But after he just kept talking so much junk that I was like, you know what? Forget about it. Let's do this. Let's have the title match. Forget it. You talk too much junk. Let's just do it. But at that moment, I had to go into my mind and say, that I'm gonna come out on top of this. I'm not losing my belt. So I had, like I said, it's funny when I think about it when you hear the story. But I was like, I'm not losing my championship belt. So we win it. We did the match. Like I said, he's big. He's big. He's hard to get to. But I'm doing the best I could. But I was determined that I'm not losing my belt, right? Assalamu alaikum, Egyptian queen, right? I was like, I'm not losing my belt. You know what I'm saying? I'm not losing my belt. So that was in my mind. I'm not losing. I don't care how big he is, how much he weighs more than me. He's stronger. I'm not losing my belt. So it was a struggle. We was wrestling. It was a struggle, boy. But I kept my determination, and sure enough, through that determination, I outsmarted him, and I wound up getting him in this move. It was called the camel clutch, right? It was called the camel clutch. There was this guy in the WWF at that time. His name was the Iron Sheik, and he had this move called the camel clutch, right? If you ever get a chance, look it up, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So even though that wasn't Hulk Hogan's signature move, it was still a wrestling move that I knew. So with me and the dude are wrestling, so I get him in the camel clutch, right? I get him in the camel clutch, and they're back. And as you do that, you grab under their chin, and you pull up on their chin as you're sitting on their back, and they're stretched out. And it's like it stretches out their back, and it stretch up their neck, and it's real painful. And he submitted. He gave up. I got him to submit and give up. And I kept my title, right? I kept the belt, and I won. So I say that to say is that, again, how did I do that? It was mental. Because he was bigger than me. He was stronger. He had more weight. He had everything. But because of my mental determination that I was not going to lose that belt. It was, like I said, it was all just funny games. But I still, in that moment as a kid, had to defend the belt. So I said, I'm not losing my belt. And sure enough, I came out on top. It was funny, too, because we wrestled on the grass in front of one of the neighbors' houses, And I don't know if it was maybe the next day or something. My next door neighbor, he was an older gentleman, but he said he had watched. He said he was watching. He said he was watching from his window us having the wrestling match. And he was like, you did a good job out there. You really got, you know what I'm saying? You really had some heart. You know what I mean? And but like I said, when I think, again, it was just funny games, but it was the mental thing that helped me come out on top, right? It was the mental aspect that helped me come out on top. Another quick example too is like, back in the days when like the UFC and the cage matches, MMA fighting really started, right? I went to watch. One time I was invited by one of my students because he used to go watch it. He had a friend in the Navy that did it. So he invited me to come out as his sensei to come to watch the fight. So we were there watching all the different fights, and it was one of the fights. Matter of fact, it was a championship fight. This guy was fighting to get the belt, I believe. He was fighting to get the belt, right, against the champion. And it was a good battle. They was going at it, right? The champion was doing a good job. He was hurting up, he was hurting the other guy. But you could see on the other guys in his demeanor, right, that clearly mentally he was determined that he was determined that he was going to get that belt. You know what I'm saying? he got some injuries. He was hurt. Arm was a little hurt, and you could see that he was getting bruised up and beat up, but he stayed determined. He was tired. You could see the tiredness and everything, but you could tell that in his mind he wasn't giving up. In his mind, he was mentally still trying to go, stay in that fight. And sure enough, he stayed in the fight. They kept on going. I forgot how did he beat the guy? He caught the champ in some kind of way. Even though he was tired, you could see he was tired. You could see his arm was hurting, but he was still trying to stay in that fight, determined mentally to keep going. And sure enough, at the end, I think he caught him in a chokehold or the arm bar. He caught him he caught the champ slipping some kind of way, and he defeated him, and he won the belt. Right? He won the belt. But again, it was all in the mind. It was that mental capacity. And so again, I repeat that's what's important, guys and ladies, in anything that you do, is your mental capacity. Your determination to win. You got to always turn it around. If you're feeling intimidated, if you thinking loss, if you're thinking the worst, then more than likely that may happen. You got to train yourself to always think to the positive. You got to always train yourself to think towards that goal, that determination to get it. Right? On the other side of this thing, of how to avoid getting screwed over mentally, is always be a critical thinker as well. Don't always believe what people tell you, what people say. Right? Learn how to research on your own. Right? Learn how to research on your own. That goes for anything, whether it comes to what the government is saying, what a friend is saying, what the news is saying, what people are saying, even religion and stuff like that. You should, if you believe in whatever you believe in, you should know about what you believe in. You shouldn't just be following along because you're following the tradition of your parents or the society or whatever, right? Whatever you into, you should know what you believe in, right? You should have the knowledge. You should have enough knowledge of what you believe in to understand why you follow or believe what you're doing, rather than just following along. Because a lot of people, they just follow along. Right? In many places, in many countries, this is why, certain countries, it has a certain religion of whatever, because most people just grew up and they followed along with it. Right? Without taking the time to say, well, why am I following this? Why am I believing in this? Now, if you studied it and you followed it, if you studied it and you researched it and you understand and agree with what you studied and you continue to follow it, nothing wrong with that. That's fine as well. But at least right? Oops, let me have to call back. Right? At least you know what I'm saying? At least you know and understand why you are following and believing what you follow and believe. So that's another aspect of how to avoid, being screwed over. Here's another saying. Let me check this one out. Here's another saying here. That this is from Stephen Biko, right? He was an activist in South Africa, apartheid South Africa, right? He was an activist in apartheid South Africa, and this is his saying here: the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. That's deep, right? That's real deep. You understand what that means, right? That the reason why the mind of the oppressed is so important in the hands of the oppressor is because if the oppressor, whether it's a person or government, can convince you to believe that, for example, that you're inferior, right? We can see these examples like in South Africa. In South Africa, for example, that's the perfect example. Look at South Africa, not now, but back before they ended apartheid, right? South Africa had been invaded by the British and the Dutch. But did you know that the British and the Dutch, Europeans, were outnumbered by the black people of South Africa? Did you know that? They were outnumbered, vastly outnumbered. Why then were the British able to keep hold of South Africa for so long? Right? Why? Beyond just the weaponries that they came with, but they were still outnumbered though. They were outnumbered. But why were they able to hold on and subjugate the people of South Africa and get the black people of South Africa to follow along with the unjust and racist system of apartheid? Why is that? Because that saying that he said, that the oppressors were able to control the mind of the oppressed, so much so that they went along with the racist apartheid laws. Instead of saying, hey, wait a minute, guys, we outnumber these people, whatever, 100 to 1, 1,000 to 1. We could just rush them out of here. We don't have to follow along. But they got the people of South Africa, the black people of South Africa, even though they outnumbered the invading Europeans, they got them to go along with the system for decades. For decades, the black South Africans just went along with, and yes, don't get me wrong, there was some resistance, but why wasn't the resistance effective enough, perhaps? It's because the overwhelming majority of them did not unify as one and say, you know what, we outnumber these people. We don't have to do any of this stuff they're telling us to do. But that's why that saying is so important, because yes, if the oppressor can get you to believe what he or she is saying to you while they want to oppress you and subjugate you, then they win. They got you. That's their best weapon, is controlling your mind. Right? We can see the same thing here in America. Right? We right now we see all these examples, unfortunately, of police brutality. The most recent one, which has caused the rebellion that we see going on in Minneapolis right now, is what happened to George Floyd, right? In that the man was clearly being killed, right? The man was clearly being killed. And although there were people, pleading with the police to hey, let him breathe. He can't breathe. Look, he's not moving. Stop. You should stop. Unfortunately, that was the extent of what people did. No one went beyond that, right? No one went beyond. No one decided to say, you know what? I'm going to stop you from killing this man. Even to just rush the cop and pull him off of him or something. Now, we understand that. Yes, that obviously it's going to get you in some serious trouble. But at the same time, you're witnessing a man dying. You're witnessing a man that is, and of course he died. But, perhaps even if you did that, and yes, you might wind up in some trouble, but perhaps it can come out in your favor once you take it to court. And the judge, hopefully, of course, you know how this country is, but hopefully the judge may see it and the jury will see it and realize that you didn't attack a cop maliciously. You were doing it to save a man's life, because that cop was clearly violating the law by blatantly killing a man unjustly. And so your plea is, I intervened not because I just wanted to attack a cop, but because the cop was clearly killing a man. So I had to stop. He was killing a man unjustly. And hopefully the judge and the jury would see that. But unfortunately, no one was willing to take that next step. Because that's how we're all trained, right? Most of the people in society were trained. And it appears that law enforcement, good and bad, are aware of this. That most people won't do anything. Yeah, they'll scream. Yeah, nowadays we got the phone cameras but he can still get away with it because nobody would dare to do anything, because we are trained. So in that sense, the mind of the oppressed is still the weapon in the hands of the oppressor, until somebody can break that and say, we got to stop this. I'm going to have to pull this officer off. Yes, of course, it's probably going to get me some deep trouble. But like I said, hopefully, if I live through that, the jury, the judge will see that it wasn't done with malicious intent. It was done because the cop was clearly violating. And until many of us get a mind state like that, we may continue to see incidents like this. Because, of course, it's been happening for a long time, right? And, of course, there came a point where we were starting to wake up, and that was why you had the formation, for example, of the Black Panthers, who decided they were going to start to police the police, right? They said they were going to police the police, because, they realized that this was getting out of hand and nobody was doing anything about it. But all in all, everyone, this is why it's so important that, to get the full benefit of the martial art training, which I said, this is what we offer at our school, that beyond, whatever school you go to, make sure that the school is giving you that mental aspect of your martial arts. Because without it, unfortunately, you're going to be lacking. If you don't have that warrior spirit within yourself, If you don't have a determination in yourself to fight for your life, then your training, I'm gonna be honest with you, your training is not gonna do anything for you. You can be the expert, you can be the best expert, you can get your black belt, you can get your whatever degrees of black belt. It won't matter if you don't have the mind state of the warrior. If you don't have the mind state that I refuse to let you take my life, or at least I'm gonna fight to the death of it. I'm gonna fight to the death for it. But at least if you take it, you're gonna be you had to really take it, because I'm just not gonna let you take it. So I'm either coming out victorious on top with my life intact, or I'm gonna fight to the end for my life. You got to have that mentality. We teach that here in Shinobi Science School of Self-Defense. But in whatever school you go to, in whatever city, state, town you live in, whatever the system you go to, please make sure that that's part of your training. That's why a lot of times, they tell you that, for the effective retention of your techniques, it's important that your school stress test you. It can't be just doing forms. It can't be just learning the techniques by itself. Now you got to put a little bit of stress on you. That's why we have our combat mode. That's where the name combat mode came from, because Master Kareem would make us do the combat mode. So after he taught the techniques and we did the class, we would then do combat mode, where now we have to put a little stress on you, right? Now we got to get in combat mode to practice the techniques, so you get used to moving, to get used to the anxiety, get put under stress. Somebody's coming at you fast, they swinging on you hard, quick, they're coming at you, and you got to get into combat mode. You got to get into the fight mode, ready to fight and defend yourself. And that's part of building up that mental aspect of it, that mental, the mind warrior. Because if you don't train like that, when the situation presents itself and you haven't been trained, you haven't gotten not only the physical, but you haven't gotten your mind to learn how to get into the quick hypeness of that moment, then you're gonna get caught off guard. You're gonna get intimidated. You're gonna be scared. And your training will go completely out. You'll freeze up and your training will go out the window. Even in the military, they do the same thing, right? The military training, the police. Why do you think, if you've been in the military, or at least you've heard about military training, like when they train, that's what they do. They have you crawling through the mud, and while you're crawling through the mud, there's stuff exploding around you, bullets are flying over your head. They practice bombs and noise and loudness and right while you crawling, because that's you got to get ready. If they just trained you, for example, to run, how to hold the gun, how to aim, and that's it, and then they said, okay guys, we're going to war, you would lose. Because once you get into the real battlefield where bombs are exploding and bullets are flying and you're used to that, your training is going to go right out the window. You're going to be useless. So that's why they train they train you how to do all the thing, how to aim, how to hold it, and then they put you where, now come on, let's simulate real battlefield. Let's simulate it. What's going on? What's that? Fitness, right? Let's simulate what it would be like on the battlefield. So you're gonna hear explosions, bombs, bomb blowing up next to you. You're gonna bullets flying over your head, bullets flying. You're gonna hear shooting and pop and pow and all of that. You got to get used to that. You got to get used to that. So that way, when it's time for the real battle, you are mentally prepared and you can deal with that stress of being in the battlefield. And so it's the same thing with your martial arts training. You yourself individually are the army, and the people out on the street who are trying to take your life, who are trying to take your money, your property, hurt you for whatever reasons, fight you, start stuff with you, attack you for whatever, that's the other arm, the enemy army. And so you want to be able to not only have the physical skill, but how to mentally be able to get into the mode of the fight, of the battle at that moment, and execute the techniques that you've learned. Because if without it, I'm telling you, without it, you won't do a good job. You won't be able to do a good job without it. So it's very important that your martial arts training, whatever discipline you guys are into, make sure that you're being taught that mental aspect along with, the techniques and the skills that they're teaching you. Because without it, like I said, that's a very important aspect of your martial art training, and without it, you're lacking. You'll be lacking. Like I said, I've seen black belts from other systems, who are black belts or whatever, and because you could see the intimidation that they were experiencing from the opponent, they lost. Their skill went out the window. They froze up, or they couldn't do their techniques because they were scared. You could see they were scared. They allowed the other person to get into their head, to intimidate them, and the other person, like I said, wasn't a black belt, and they lost. Black belt didn't matter. It didn't matter because up here they had already been defeated. So guys, again, it's very important that you don't leave out this part. And if you don't, if your school isn't giving you that, if you want to supplement it, like I said, for those who are watching here, you got to check on my YouTube. But there are books out there that you can read to help you with that. You know what I mean? To help you with that. But like I said, that's helping with the mental part. The other mental part of it is that you still need to find a way to stress test yourself, to practice your techniques under pressure. If your school is not doing it, then perhaps you might want to get a training partner and tell them to put a little pressure on you, to come at you quick, come at you fast, come at you hard, put on some protective gear and have them really swing at you and really try to grab you, really try to rush you, and learn how to, mentally, because obviously the mind controls the body, how to mentally get in that combat mode and how to react quick under stress, how to put yourself in combat mode and transmit the energy as the person is coming at you, or grabbing you quick, or punching you fast or hard, or rushing you, trying to grab you, bear hug you, whatever, and learn how to explode and put yourself in that. All right, guys. So with that, I believe I covered everything I wanted to cover. Just remember, don't allow yourself to get mentally screwed over. Always critically think about things. Be an observer. Think things through. That's another. I guess I'll add that too. Also, too. Yes. Don't allow people to get into your head the other way, which is to cause you to react to something to make you get emotional, something to make you get angry. Because a lot of times when you get angry, that also makes you lose your focus as well, right? You lash out of anger, and because of that, now it's your anger, it's your rage, and you're not thinking. So you make simple mistakes, and because that other person was able to get you, they were able to push your buttons, as they say, and now you lash out in anger, yet that other person is calm because that's what they wanted you to do, and you're rushing out in anger, and they're calm and collective, and you wind up getting defeated. You wind up getting defeated like that as well. So that's the other aspect of it as well, is not allow people to be able to mentally manipulate you, to get you to get upset, to get you to get angry, and then act out of anger and rage. And that's another way that your techniques go out the window as well, because now you're not thinking, you're acting out of anger and rage, and you just swinging, and the person is calm and collective, and they wind up beating you, catching you out there because you were just moving based upon straight anger and rage. So always try to control that as well. Try to control your anger, control your rage, keep the discipline in your skill, keep calm and collected, so that way you can stay focused, so that way when they do come at you, you can still catch them out there rather than them catching you out there, right? So like I said, the mental dominance is a very important aspect of your martial arts, your martial arts training. All right, so I'm gonna end it on that. I appreciate you guys working. I appreciate you guys checking me out. Don't forget, if you appreciate the lessons that we give you, go on ahead and support the Shinobi Science School of Self-Defense. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, the Cash App is there, the PayPal, the Patreon. We got a couple of other options that you can help us out, to help support the school, help support the lessons if you appreciate it. If anybody's watching on the live Instagram and you want to support, like I said, just go over to my YouTube page, Shinobi. It's the same thing when I'm on Instagram, Shinobi Science. Just look up Shinobi Science on YouTube, and you'll see options where, like I said, if you appreciate the lessons, go on ahead and support the lessons, and hit up the Cash App or the PayPal or the other available items that we have where you could support the school and support the lessons here. All right, guys, appreciate you checking in, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Take care. Oh wait, let me see. We got a couple of people here on let's Let's see. Daryl Bean said, "Please, can you share the website with me?" Which website? The website for what? Okay, I'll send it to you there. But you mean the website for what? For the school? And William Sanderson, not to get you off topic, in the near future, can you do some can you drills? Sure, yeah, sure. I'll do some. I used to have a video too. I did a video a while back where I had it, but yeah, we'll do some. I'll show a video where we can do that. I used to, like I said, I used to have a video up about that, but I'll definitely do that. But appreciate it, guys. Appreciate you guys checking in. And William, I'm not sure which website you're talking about, but if you mean the website for the school, you can just get that through. It's on my it's on the YouTube channel, so you can get it through there. Go to my Instagram. It's on there. Also my Twitter. On all of these sites, I'm Shinobi Science, so you can find me easily. And the websites are all on all of those from there. It's on the YouTube. It's on the Twitter. It's on the Instagram. All right. So just you can get it through there. All right. All right, guys. Appreciate you checking in. And then, like I said, one more time, don't forget, if you appreciate the lessons, go on ahead and help us out, and hit us up give us something on the Cash App, or the PayPal, or the Patreon, or buy the videos. We got all these different ways you can help support the Shinobi Science School of Self-Defense. All right, guys. Take care. Have a good night. Stay safe.